All right, hello everyone. So we're doing a 3-part cooking series with some holiday recipes that are all healthy and nutritious. So I figured today I would start off with an appetizer. My family is Italian, and on Christmas Eve we always do like a 7 fishes dinner where we try to have 7 different types of seafood. So kind of going along with that theme, I decided to do a little shrimp appetizer today. So it is a marinated party shrimp is what it's called, and you guys will get all the recipes after the class. But it's a very simple recipe. There's only a few things that you need. The first thing being shrimp. I like to use frozen. These are the extra jumbo. I like to have my shrimp be a little bit bigger, but you can do this honestly with any size that you want. But I like to get the frozen easy peel. So the first thing you're going to do is defrost your shrimp. I did this overnight in the fridge. I just put the bag from the freezer into the fridge. And now when these come out, they look like this. So they have the legs, they have the exoskeleton still on them. But the good thing with easy peel is that all you have to do is it's already split in the back. You just peel that and you take the legs off. I like to keep the very end of the tail on. So you can see the tail here is still on because that makes it easy when you're in like a group setting for people to just pick it up. Otherwise, everyone's got to kind of touching other things. So it's nice and easy to be able to use the tail as the handle. So I'll show you that one more time, just if you are not familiar with peeling shrimp. It's very simple. If you get the easy peel, the back already has a cut down the middle. You're just going to start to pull that off. You can see it comes off pretty much in one easy swoop, and you just disconnect it from there. And that's it, and you can discard this part. So after you've done that with your 2 pounds of shrimp, you're just gonna let them sit. I have mine in a colander in the sink. I'm not gonna show it to you guys, but that's what I usually do. I just keep them in the sink so that if they are still a little bit that are frozen, they can continue to defrost in there. Next, you're going to chop up your garlic. So this recipe calls for 4 cloves of garlic. And you want to peel it first. If yours gets stuck, it's easy to just smash it like that when you want to get the rest of the ends off, the peel off. And you're just going to chop the garlic. It doesn't need to be super small. It's just for a marinade. You don't want it to be just like huge chunks, but you don't need to go crazy trying to mince it and take a long time. So you can just kind of do a little rough chop like this. And garlic is probably my least favorite thing to cut ever. So I learned a trick, and that is to, after you've done one rough chop, take some salt, sprinkle your salt on there. I'm using a blend of pink salt and black charcoal salt. And now as you cut it, this actually helps keep the garlic in one place. Makes it a little bit easier to chop. So once your garlic is cut, like I said, you don't need to go crazy. This is plenty. You're gonna put it into a container. So this recipe needs to marinate for a couple of hours. So I chose a regular Tupperware container that's big enough. That way I can easily just put the top on and put it in the fridge until I'm ready to cook it. This is something you could prepare if you want to prepare it the night before, you can. If you want to prepare it in the morning, it's super easy and it really doesn't take long at all. So we've got our garlic in our container. Next, we're going to add our spices. So the first thing that we're going to add is some rosemary. We need 4 tablespoons of rosemary. So you can see it's dried. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. To me, rosemary is just like the ultimate holiday spice, and it's got a ton of health benefits as well. Next, we're going to use some Italian seasoning. We need 2 teaspoons of dried Italian seasoning. So same thing. 1, 2. Next is thyme. We need 1/2 teaspoon of thyme. You can use ground powdered thyme, or you can use just like regular like this where it's dried. The containers that have these little holes in them, you can take your time, pouring it out, or they're usually pretty easy to just take this little piece off. And now it's easier to get your teaspoon in there. So we need 1/2 teaspoon of thyme. I'm gonna put that in there. And 2 bay leaves. So you want to try to keep the bay leaves as whole as possible, because you don't want them, they're very hard and you don't want to eat them. You just want them for their flavor. So we're going to put 2 whole leaves in. Now we need a teaspoon of salt. Like I said, I'm using a mixture of charcoal salt and pink salt. You can use table salt, you can use kosher salt, sea salt, whichever salt you fancy. So it's 1 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of ground pepper. There we go. So here's our regular ground pepper, 1/2 teaspoon, and that's going to go in there. So now that we've got all of our dry ingredients in, we're going to add our wet ingredients. And there's only 2 wet ingredients in this recipe. It is some white cooking wine and some olive oil. And it's going to be a cup of each. So we've got our cup of white cooking wine. If you don't have cooking wine, you can use like a dry white wine if you have that at the house. I prefer the cooking wine. So we've got a cup of cooking wine, and then we've got a cup of olive oil. Oh, almost there. All right, and our cup of olive oil. So now this is your marinade. If you want to give it a little stir, you can. It already smells really good. I can promise you it tastes just as good as it smells. All right. So now that we have our marinade set, we're going to add our shrimp. So like I said before, I have my shrimp in a colander in the sink. It's all right here. We're just going to add them in. These are raw shrimp. Don't buy the cooked kind because you're going to have to cook it again, and then they're going to be very dry and overcooked. So our shrimp's sitting in our marinade. And all you have to do is put a cover on. If you want, you can shake it up a little bit. Let's see if I can get this on. There we go. So put a cover on, give it a little mix, and we're going to put this in the fridge. So I have some that's already marinated. So these have been marinating for about 2.5 hours. You can marinate anywhere between 2 and 4 hours, or if you really want to, you probably could marinate overnight. I haven't tried it, but this is what it looks like. So you can see all the shrimp are getting some good spices on them. Again, it smells really good. That olive oil is getting a little bit thicker because it's been in the fridge. So I'm going to bring you over to the stove now. And you're going to want a pretty deep saute pan That way the liquid isn't going to come pouring out. We're going to put this on a medium-high heat. And when you cook these, you don't want all of this liquid to go in the pan. It's too much liquid and it's going to make a mess. So what I like to do is take my shrimp. We're going to put them in the pan. Here's one of the bay leaves. We're going to keep that out because remember I said we don't want to eat this. It's very hard. It would be painful. So we're just going to pour our shrimp with a little bit of the marinade in, but not a ton of it, into our pan. There we go. So you can see you want to get all the shrimp in one layer. So this is about a pound of shrimp. This is like half of a bag. If you're going to cook 2 pounds, you're going to need a really big skillet because if they're not all laying flat, they're going to cook very unevenly. And you don't want your shrimp to be too well done because they can get very hard. And a good way to tell when your shrimp is done is you can see like this one right here is starting to turn more of a pink color. They will not be blue anymore when they're completely cooked. So we're just gonna let those sit in the marinade, keep cooking until they're done. They don't take very long. They take about 10, 15-ish minutes to cook. And like I said, with shrimp, you want to be careful. Just like most seafoods, you don't really want to overcook it. They can get rubbery. It can kind of get like that funky taste to it. So you really want to make sure that you're cooking them. A good way to tell is when they start to curl up. You don't want them to be super tight, but the more that they curl up, the more done they are. So I'm just going to grab a plate from up here. And if we go back to the shrimp, you can see they're all starting to turn color. You can go ahead and flip them. If you have tongs, it's a lot easier to do this with tongs, but I don't have them here. We're going to let them sit on this side for a few more minutes. They're already smelling so good. You can really smell all of those like holiday spices like the rosemary and the thyme. It pairs really well with the seafood. You can see with the marinade, the spices really stick to the shrimp. So a lot of times when you're cooking food, if you don't marinate it, long enough, it's kind of like you cook it and all of those spices fall off. When you make these shrimp, they really, when you bite into it, you can taste all of those spices, a little bit of the white wine, gives it sort of a tangier flavor, which is great with seafood. And these are almost done. Now, when you're plating these for a party, I like to put them on just like a serving tray with some toothpicks. Like I said, it's easy if you keep the tails on, it's easier for people to grab them. You might want to put a little dish on the side too if you do leave the tails on, so that people can toss their used tail into a dish. But these are just about to be finished, so I'm going to get my plate. And a good example is if we take this one, so I don't burn myself, see how it's pretty tightly curled? That's a really good indicator that the shrimp is done. You can also kind of poke them a little bit, and as you feel them, they start to get firmer. It's another good way to tell. So we're just going to place our shrimp onto our plate. Plate might be a little bit big for all the shrimp, that's okay. And that's it. Super simple, but really delicious. You can see here is the shrimp on a plate. I would put a little serving dish here that was empty to keep the tails in, and maybe some toothpicks for people as well. But that's pretty much it. That is the simplest holiday recipe, and it's so healthy. Shrimp have a ton of healthy proteins, amino acids in them. They also have some good healthy fats in them as well. Does anybody have any questions? I really wish this was in person so you could taste it, because it is so, so good. But unfortunately, I will be eating these by myself.
They look very good, especially in the marinated little sauce that was created there. Those are 2-pound uncooked shrimp. That was a 2-pound bag.
This is not, like, what I cooked is not a full 2 pounds, just because I split the bag, but the recipe is for 2 pounds.
Excellent. Yeah, that would definitely work around the holiday time as a little
Yeah.
a little appetizer before the main courses arrive. Does anyone have any questions, or I could unmute you, or if you'd like to type it in anything in the chat, I'll gladly do that. The recipe that was just demonstrated is available. I can email it to everyone who's on the call, and we'll continue next week. We have 2 dates, 2 recipes, Wednesday the 9th and Thursday the 10th. And maybe, when all of the things that are happening now clear, we can have a little tasting. But for now,
Yeah, that'd be great.
For now, virtual is the route that we're going.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you, Dana, as usual, for a fantastic presentation, and the presentation of the shrimp in the pan even looks excellent. Very, very professional. And Grace asks, do we know the menus for the next 2 sessions?
Yeah.
Do you want to leave those as a surprise, or just?
I'll give you guys a little hint. It's gonna be, there's definitely gonna be like a side dish is the next one, and then the last one is a dessert. It's gluten-free dessert, so they're gonna be really good. You guys should.
Very good. Yeah, we're also big on the 7 fishes, and there's definitely always a shrimp cocktail that's put out at the beginning of the dinner, but they normally, what they'll do is they'll just put out the traditional shrimp cocktail with the sauce in the center. But this is actually a little bit more of a step up, and it's given me an idea to give it a try this year.
Yeah, it's really good.
This year.
I brought it to Thanksgiving with a few of my, I only had like my aunt and my uncle with me, but my uncle was like, these are so good, and he couldn't stop eating them. So I think you guys will really enjoy it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for this fantastic recipe, and we'll see everybody again on the 9th for the next demonstration.
Yep.
Thank you.
Guys,
Thank you.
thanks for watching.